we start with the body, and then we just work our way deeper and deeper into the heart center. To go there, I just invite you right now to feel your toes, wiggle them in your shoes or in your socks, or if they're bare, just wiggle them and then press all 10 of them into the ground. Press. And then when you're ready, release those toes. And then find your heels. You might lift them one at a time from the ground, just so you remember, oh yeah, there are heels down there. And then when you've gotten them, when you found your heels, press them into the ground. Press those heels. Press down. And when you're ready, release. Notice the ground underneath your heels now. Notice the ground underneath your toes now. And then turn your attention to the arches of your feet. So with the heels connected and the toes connected, the arch is probably lifted somewhat, which is awesome. And just imagine that arch on each foot is a gateway. There's an opening there. And now we're going to take a deep breath as if we're going from the center of the earth all the way up through our gateway, through the soles of our feet, all the way up to the heart center. So let's try that together. Breathe out. And when you breathe in, just imagine that you're pulling in air all the way up, energy all the way up through your legs, solar plexus, into the heart. And when you exhale, you're just exhaling from the heart. So we're going to do that 3 times, where you're pulling up air and energy through the holes, through the soles of your feet, all the way up to the heart. And then you exhale. I'll let you do that on your own breath and your own timing. And then place one hand over your heart, or 2 hands if it works for you. And say to yourself out loud, repeat after me. And I invite you to say it out loud. It is more powerful when done that way. I am unconditional love.
I am unconditional.
I am unconditional acceptance.
I am unconditional acceptance.
I am unconditional love.
Unconditional.
I am unconditional acceptance.
Unconditional acceptance.
I am unconditional love. I am unconditional acceptance. Just take a moment to rub that into the heart. Give thanks. When you're ready, open your eyes. All right. Let us continue deepening our time together. You're here to figure out how we can get the most out of this time that's coming up for ourselves and for our communities. We're here because we care about ourselves and we care about everybody else. So I want you to know the takeaway: let go what is going, let come what is coming. I'm going to hit this theme again and again today. Let go what is going, let come what is coming. So this is for you if you're feeling like you're in free fall, the elevator, and all of a sudden it's just dropping and you have that feeling in your gut like you don't know where this is going to end and it feels pretty bad. This is for you if you're feeling maybe just a little bit anxious. This is for you if you're feeling angry about what is happening. And this is for you if you're feeling like you're on shaky ground right now. If you're asking, what do I do? Where do I start? I'm glad you're here. What I want to say is that timing is everything and timing is nothing. Timing is everything in the sense of you're not going to put your beans in the garden in winter. That timing about when you plant is very important if you want to actually have something that's alive and healthy. Timing is important. One of the things with capitalism, late industrial, whatever you want to call this phase that we're in right now, is that the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week news cycle with all of the advancements we've made in things like heating and lighting, we can get confused about what time it is. Timing is important. There is a difference between spring, summer, late summer, fall, and winter. There's a different energy out there. We have different energy in our bodies. Your menstrual cycle is important. And on an internal level, there is no time. In another way, when we think of ourselves as part of the infinite, the divine, there is no time. There's nothing but everything happening all at once. Hold on to both of those. So today, what we're going to cover is what are the eclipses? What is the Venus retrograde? Spring equinox? And what are the energies that we can expect from these things that are happening, these cycles that are happening around us right now? The eclipses, the retrograde, and the spring equinox. Why spring is the time for you to be seen and to take a stand, but how to do it wisely and sustainably. Some simple rituals to transform the energy of anger and maybe protracted conflicts that you're still in from the winter into positive, loving action practices for grounding. And then finally, I'm going to tell you about our Mother Tree Community Spring Equinox and Eclipse Soul Journey. That's going to happen starting March the 20th. So what is a lunar or solar eclipse? Simply put, according to ChatGPT for first graders, it's when an object obscures or gets in front of another object. In the case of the lunar eclipse, which is coming first, it's when the Earth blocks sunlight from reaching the moon, and it makes the moon look dark. It obscures it. And in the case of the solar eclipse, it's when the moon moves in front of the sun, so it gives us some darkness for that short period of time where it's eclipsing the sun in the daytime. So what's significant about a lunar or a solar eclipse for you, your work in the world, or our world events? I do not claim that this is the truth, but this is a pair of glasses that you can put on to look at, to notice what happens in your life and what's happening in the world around these cosmic cycles. So the lunar eclipse is on March the 14th. which is a Friday, and the solar eclipse is on the 29th, which is a Saturday. And what has generally been accumulated over time in many cultures is that during eclipses tend to ignite major plot twists, chapter endings, chapter beginnings, major shifts. What has been noticed about the lunar eclipse is that tends to be when there are endings. And lunar eclipses, it has been said, tend to be more about regular everyday people like me and you. And solar eclipses, one of their significations is they're about heads of state, celebrities, people who shine extremely brightly, who have really huge influence. I just want to share a couple of stories from my own life. I went back and looked at how eclipses had affected me. I found that in 2017, around the time of the solar eclipse, I invested in my racial justice from the heart business. My mother had left me some money from her life insurance policy, and I totally didn't think about it. But all of a sudden, I realized that I was going to stay struggling if I didn't invest more money into racial justice from the heart, and also more belief, more energy that this could be my expression and my livelihood. So that was in 2017. And in 2021, around the lunar eclipse, I finally accepted that it was time for me to shut down racial justice from the heart and radically alter my philosophy and my business. So many tears because I didn't let go of what was going and let come what was coming. I really hung on to what was going. And I think that slowed down what was coming, which is ultimately the Mother Tree community. And then I'll say in 2024, this is a more personal story. I was ready to start anew my relationship with my stepchildren. During this eclipse last year, I created what's called an ancestral mountain of fire, where I burned a lot of painful memories and hurts and counter hurts. I just wrote it out and I burned it during that eclipse, which was very visible. I don't know if any of you saw it. And then I put those ashes on my altar to ask and invite my ancestors to help me with this, to begin anew my relationship with my stepchildren. And here it is, 6 months later, and my relationship with my stepchildren has all these sweet little shoots of trust coming up, statements of thanks and appreciation. So when you combine an eclipse with other rituals and other energies like your ancestors, you can fuel what's coming, fuel something beautiful that you want to create. I'm going to talk about the lunar eclipse in Virgo. Here is an invitation for you to release in these areas, something related to your body. Is there something that you're doing physically that isn't working for your body? It could be your sleep habits. It could be your exercise habits, or maybe you push a little too hard on your body, or you tend to not give your body enough movement. So this is an invitation to release in the area, something in your body, something about your habits or your routine. It could be you don't have enough of a routine. It could be that you're so habituated to always having coffee in the morning or whatever else, or you're habituated to looking at your phone first thing when you wake up. There's an invitation, an energy to support you in releasing something. Mental. Are you spending a lot of time in your head? Maybe for your job, you do a lot of writing or you do a lot of thinking. Is there something about all that mental energy that can be released, reduced? Let's just say if you have a tendency to be extremely practical and very focused on that's not going to work. How are you going to do that? You jump from a vision, a dream to how do you make it real? You're like one of those people. Hello, me. I'm not criticizing anybody. Maybe you're being invited this to release that tendency to always be so realistic. If you in these areas, here's what's possible. Visions, a connection, a knowing what it is that your heart really yearns for. Psychic or spiritual gifts, being able to sense things, your intuition, maybe your dreams, somehow getting more information or direction than you're used to, feeling more connected, part of the whole, the cosmic whole, the universal whole, or the whole of what feels good to you. If you release in these areas, the possibility is that you will receive these things: vision, greater awareness of what your heart is yearning for, psychic, spiritual gifts, intuition, and a feeling of oneness. So the solar eclipse, an invitation to begin in certain areas that are related to Aries or the sun, building core strength, building solar plexus strength, physically building that strength, allowing yourself to be seen, using your will to say no to something that you don't believe in, you don't want to do, and an invitation to tend your anger. If you take this invitation to begin working on these areas or one of these areas, this will allow you to have energy for your yes. When you say no, you actually have more energy for the thing that you are so excited about, that you want to build turn your energy towards. When you say no and you build your core strength and you tend to your anger, you also can trust yourself more. You can trust yourself to hold your ground. You can trust your intuition. Trusting yourself allows you to make your voice heard or let yourself be seen, to publish your Substack, to start your podcast, to let your art be seen in the world, to ask for a raise, to ask to go part-time, whatever it is. When you trust yourself, you can take more actions on your behalf and on behalf of our collective. And finally, living out your authentic, unique purpose. Why don't we take a moment here to give you a chance to journal? You may have been taking notes as we go, but maybe if you look at what you wrote or take a few notes. Let me pause this recording. Thank you. I want to respond to a couple things in the chat. Elizabeth is saying, my anxiety arises in my solar plexus. Yeah. And I want to say that yesterday, a couple of times, I noticed myself feeling weak, like I had no strength. Once I was in a workshop and with my mentor, and we were like really just getting present to the systemic nature of various oppressions interlocking. And some people call it the cage of oppression. And I remember I was just like, well, where do we go from here? And she said, okay, I want everybody to bend your knees slightly. And she got into a goddess pose. So like this, you bend your knees, right? This is, and if you know what goddess pose is, you know what goddess pose is. But if you don't, it's your knees are bent, like this situation. Yeah. Okay. You might lift your heels up, put them down, lift them up. It's like you're reminding yourself of your power, right? And then she said, ha, ha. So she had us huff from our solar plexus just to remind ourselves physically of our power. So you can use that if you start to feel a sense of like weakness. And this spring is a time of the solar plexus. I'm going to get more into that as we go on, but we do need to strengthen our solar plexus this spring.
Thanks.
Yes. And then Kathy said new moon in Aries is the same day as the solar eclipse. Yes. So this is an auspicious day. The 29th of March is an auspicious day for visioning. And one thing relates to the next. But if you didn't release stuff, that's going to block your capacity to vision. Remember the Virgo things I asked you to let go of? Being practical, realistic, micro, keeping your head down. For visioning, we need elevation. More wow, less how, as Crystal said in the chat. Something else I worry. Easy to say, hard to do. Worry always forgets. We have divine assistance. We don't know the end of this story. We are not the little victims that we've been taught that we are, or that our nervous systems have locked into from things that happened in our childhood or at other times in our lives. I was just reading what Jess said. We don't know the end of the story. It could always be better than we imagine. You're right. One of the things why I had a big shift in my business and in my philosophy was when I realized we don't know. We do not know. We don't know, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. Take comfort in not knowing. You think you have to know to be safe, but what you know is so limited in this state of being. If we release in that Virgo lunar eclipse, remember what's possible is the opposite of Virgo, which is big visioning, oneness, mysticism. The other thing I want to say about spring, what's really beautiful right now with this solar eclipse coming and us coming into the time of spring and more light is our divine masculine. You could think of it as accessing your inner warrior, your spiritual warrior, whatever words really make sense for you, but that part of you that's got some oomph to her, that has some strength in the legs and in the solar plexus, some confidence. This whole solar plexus area is associated with the color yellow, but it's also associated with fire. When you feel a weakening in the solar plexus area, put on some yellow, light a candle, music that makes you raise your energy, raise the fire inside of you. Let's talk about this spring equinox portal. So the spring equinox itself is on March the 20th, but I want you to think about it as like a 2-week portal. In traditional Chinese medicine, they think of it as a 2-week solar return. The spring equinox, of course, is when we have roughly equal amounts of day and night, light and darkness. And in the course of the portal, we're moving toward increased light. What's possible then? When you look at it as a portal, as a 2-week liminal space, what we're doing is you're noticing increasing light, more light than darkness. And we're moving from a yin energy to a yang energy. So yin being a more receiving, allowing, letting, resting, sinking, dark, inward energy to a more yang energy which is more action, will, push. Instead of sinking, rising. And whereas yin, there's more darkness and we're more inwardly focused and we're hibernating like bears. We're not seen. And that's great in a yin time. But in this spring equinox portal, we're preparing ourselves for more visibility. We're preparing ourselves to be heard more. We're preparing ourselves to connect with our individual will and to move from our will rather than from what forces around us are trying to compel us to do or seduce us into doing or guilt us into doing, manipulate us into doing. So we're using the spring equinox portal to clarify on our individual will, to build up our capacity to be seen, to shift our pacing gradually so that it's more intense, a little faster than it was in the winter months. So what you'll notice about the spring equinox is that it harmonizes with the eclipses. That first eclipse is on the 14th and the second eclipse is on the 29th. And in between you have the spring equinox. So what we actually have is, I'm calling it like a 4-week window of flexing, releasing, calling in, seeing, strengthening, preparing to be more outward, to do the work that we want to do to make the world a better place. I want to say something about Venus retrograde. I wasn't planning to, but I woke up yesterday morning with the words Venus retro like being yelled in my head. So I'm sharing it with you in case it's not just for me, in case there's also a message here for you. Venus retrograde, it's a cycle that the planet Venus takes, and it's a 40-day journey where Venus stops being our evening star and becomes our morning star. Besides the sun and the moon, the third most bright object in our sky is Venus. There's an ancient Sumerian myth about Inanna, some of you probably know it, where a queen takes a journey from, in some ways, being very bright and on top of the world, and she goes through a downward spiral where she goes down deep, deep until she gets to the other world, the underworld, and loses everything until, with divine intervention, she begins her ascent back up to be seen again. Wiser, stronger, more of a queen than a princess, more able and willing to serve than she did when she first started her journey. Venus is moving between Aries and Pisces. And on a zodiac wheel, Aries represents the beginning and Pisces represents the end. Aries represents spring, newness, and Pisces represents winter. Aries, you might think of it as divine masculine energy, and Pisces, divine feminine energy or more receiving energy. So the fact that Venus is going between these two tendencies, it's like she's inviting us to reflect, retro, to reflect. What are we yearning for? What are the insights when we open to the mystical? What are the insights that we can receive? Things that quote unquote don't make sense. And how can that infuse or become our vision, our goal, or our intention in this year? On today, March the 8th through March the 10th, Venus is hovering around the solar eclipse point, which we're going to come to on March 29th. But the fact that Venus is already pinging it, hanging out around it, might be a clue for you as to what you want to shift. What's happening this weekend might be a little bit of a clue for you, a breadcrumb for what you really want to take on or take into the new year. So how do you make the world a better place working with these energies? A secret of transformation is to let go what is going and to let come what is coming. To choose to put your will in alignment with letting go what is going and letting come what is coming. So spring is clearly, when we look around us, spring is a time of birth and creation. You to tap into that, the heart needs to be in a vibration of love. Love is the vibration of creation. Naturally, anger is in the mix of what we are encountering this spring. But anger is a short-term fuel. Look how fast fire burns. We need a longer-term fuel to go from what I don't like to creation. Whether you're building a business, you're building a community, you're building a family, those take long-term energy. Anger can spur you, it can spark you. We have to work with it wisely because it is a short-term fuel. You want to be in the space of what do I want more than you want to be in the space of what I'm against. Do the 80-20 rule. You want to have 80% of your attention on what it is that makes you say yes. You feel good about it. 20% of your attention on what you're opposing, what you're against, what you're protesting. I invite you to use this Spring Equinox Eclipse portal to restore trust with yourself, to reclaim your power, and to keep love at the center. This is, in fact, what we're focusing on when we go through the soul journey together in the Mother Tree community. Okay, so how to work with these energies and get out there wisely. Specifically, very simply, receive first every day. please receive first. There's increased sunlight, so wherever you encounter it, just turn your face to it and receive it for at least 15 seconds. 1,000, 1,000. Don't be stingy with yourself. You can do it. You have time to receive. If you're on a phone call and you see the sun coming through the window, you can stay on your call, but just turn your face to receive that light and say thank you, appreciate it. This is feeding your system. So in traditional Chinese medicine, they say that anger is the emotion that comes up in spring, this time of year. So how do we deal with anger? First thing is feel it, but don't feed it. One of the most important things I can do every day is to let myself feel the anger fully, because if I don't, then my energy's trapped there and it's just being repressed. But don't feed it. Don't feed it means don't rehearse the hurt, the ridiculousness, the attack, repeating it over and over to yourself. If you find yourself doing that, that could be your reminder to pause, check in with your body. Where are you feeling this anger? And then asking that body part what it needs, and then give that to your body. Express your gratitude to your body for letting you know, because that shifted energy is what you want to bring to a conversation, to a negotiation, to a rally. You want to bring the energy of power, not the energy of victim. I'm going to let you take a quick moment to look at this. Everything is going to be about feeling it fully first. I'm reading a book right now called Busting Loose of the Money Game. And it really could have a whole different title, because it is all about remembering and reclaiming your identity as divine and infinite. In traditional Chinese medicine, they say that spring is the time of the element wood. And one of the simplest ways for you to get in alignment with wood energy is to hang out with some trees as much as you can, as much of your body against trees as possible. Looking at trees as friends, asking your tree, what's your tree's name? Breathing with a tree, because when you breathe in, you're breathing in the oxygen they've created for you. And when you breathe out, you're giving them the carbon monoxide that they need. This is just a very simple way to begin building a relationship with trees and to absorb the wisdom of wood. I also recommend journaling. This has all been my process of forming a relationship with trees. Grounding practices. So in the midst of transition, a lot of fire and air. So what we need as queens, as leaders in our communities, as holders, we need to be grounded. I want you to pay attention to what I've heard called the hour of power, the half hour before you go to bed and the half hour when you first wake up in the morning. I recommend you do something in your hour of power that gives you peace, that reminds you of your power, that fills you with gratitude, but use your hour of power consciously. It's very easy, because of the way phones are in my life, and maybe in yours too, to give your power over to the news or to your calendar, to your text messages, to social media, to cat videos. I'm just suggesting that you consciously use that half hour before you go to sleep and that half hour when you first wake up. Practice fasting from the news and from social media. So this could be intermittent fasting, where you say, okay, I only listen to the news once a week or once a month, or maybe you take a complete fast. It's up to you. And it is okay for you to choose to fast. If the world is ending, you will find out. Nature. So I talked about it being spring being a time of the wood element in traditional Chinese medicine. So one of the ways to get the medicine of wood in your life is to spend some time outside with nature, with trees, and to use stones or the mineral kingdom to help ground you. The mineral kingdom holds vibration steady, the steadiest, the longest. It's the most consistent. So having minerals in your life that help to steady you, calm you, keep you in your heart, keep you rooted to the earth. If you've been in a prolonged conflict this winter, you may be stuck in a situation where your higher self is trying to help you see what's inside of you. Projections. If you spot it, you got it. What you hate in somebody else, you hate inside of yourself. What you hate can't actually shift until it's accepted. So what if you looked at that protracted conflict, that bad person, those qualities that you hate over there? What if you turned them around and said, where do these live in me? How can I accept them? They're inside of me. And I'm okay. I am still lovable, even though I can be bossy. So you can use the spring equinox portal to uncover those judgments against yourself, those projections, to restore love to yourself. I'm still lovable. I love you. I love you. I love you. Even though you can see all the shadow in you, I love you. And reclaim your power. So spring is a time for vision. It's a time to ask what is coming. And that's especially pronounced this spring with the eclipse on the 29th. If you don't have an ancestor altar, this might be the time to start one. Start with immediate ancestors who you love. Go low, go slow. Start with those who you already love, who you already trust, who you already know love you so much. And I think it's important as we go through this portal to be in community, to have a mentor. I have a mentor. I have two. So you're not navigating this time by yourself and getting lost in your head. I'm so excited to be journeying with you again. This will be our third Spring Equinox Soul Journey. It's going to start on the equinox itself, which is March the 20th, and it will go through that weekend through Sunday. And then we'll complete on Saturday, March the 29th. It's going to be 90 minutes each day, 12 to 1:30 Eastern each day. You don't have to come every single day to get the benefit because we are recording it. But I will say this, when you do stay in that container for 4 days straight, and then via our WhatsApp through the 29th, you will have an experience where you will know what you're ready to start. I have a sense of what are these divine gifts that are being offered to me right now? What is going? What is coming? So when you do it in community, it's really good if you're a beginner. If you feel like, wow, I would love to do this, but I'm not quite sure how to start. If you're already experienced working with the spring equinox, with the portal, then this container is a space where you make sure you make time every day to tend to what is important in the long term, but what may seem not urgent. Our Spring Equinox Soul Journey ensures that you give yourself what you need, that you do for yourself. Give yourself like a candle and your light like a candle, then you know that you shine so much more brightly when you're with others. You know that when you hear other people's stories and their struggles or their miracles, it's you get enriched. And when you're with other people who know you, who are listening to you, you tend to follow through. So community is so awesome when you are going through a portal like this. It helps to have a guide, to have someone to talk it over with. It can help to be reminded that you're worthy of love, no matter what your shadow shows. Having some wisdom and some care from someone else, especially because so many people on this call are constantly giving to other people. So when you join the Spring Equinox Soul Journey, you get 3 months of membership in the Mother community right away. If you're in the Mother Tree community already, then you get a bonus. You get a special discount on the price. There'll be an exclusive live Q&A session. We have a WhatsApp thread devoted to the Spring Equinox portal. So that's where you get to stay in touch with people from March the 20th through the 29th. And it's $547. That's the cost. I just want you to know that a variety of people have done these soul journeys from different ages, ethnic background, genders, professions, musicians, yoga teachers, social justice warriors, folks who are retired. Yeah, we're all in here. So you're welcome. Bring your weird.